Big tune, that one, Soph. I love that.
I love
Absolutely
that too.
that.
Right, so on Poetic Flow, you know we love to get a bit of poetry on the show, and today's local poet is the incredible Andy N with an amazing poem on lockdown. Andy N is the author of almost 4 full-length poetry collections, the most recent being The Streets Were All We Could See, and numerous split poetry collections, including The Lockdown Was All We Could See, co-wrote with his partner Amanda Steele. So the poem is part of a 3-part series which explores the 3 stages of lockdown, so beginning, middle, end. And this poem, as we are leaving lockdown and we are opening our wings and stepping out into the big world, we are going to read for you Andy N's Leaving Lockdown.
I just want to say, I think it's so important actually that like poetry, we explore poetry about lockdown, about isolation, because honestly, you think so much. And me and Soph were just talking about it, about actually like for the mentals isolation station, there were some really, really hard times, and there was times where I couldn't even use like my normal outlets because I was just there, like my brain, the only way to say it is if I felt really wagwan. And honestly, I feel like putting words on paper is actually such a good way to do it.
100%.
And sharing stories, sharing experiences, it's so important. And I can't say it enough, it's so important that we create conversation in this time, that you check up on your G's, because honestly, someone in isolation really, really appreciates that. And me and Soph had to go into isolation, and the fact that even that we were able to FaceTime each other or text each other, it really helped me, I know, but
it made a massive difference. It's so important because it can get lonely up in here, but that's why it's important to share and listen to poetry, other people's words. So here we go. This is Leaving Lockdown. Skating through the silence, the back of the deserted old cricket club blends into the early morning mist, with the moon sinking over the cliff, turning the coastline orange at the start of another day. In the distance you can hear the cars begin to stretch their legs again after a prolonged break, and people returning to the train station, following white 2-meter lines like they were stepping into an unsure fairy tale. Back home you have worked tirelessly, switching on your laptop at 7 a.m, dosing yourself up in sugar-free Red Bulls, leaving you feeling instead of being on the roof of the world. You were now hiding in the basement, now breaking out of 3 months of silence, afraid to even open the kitchen window, let alone say hello to your neighbour. Your imagination finally set free, finally finding the right words, mourning for all those who didn't make it. That was so powerful.
So beautiful. And as I said, like it's so interesting to hear other people's feelings of lockdowns, because you kind of feel like I'm not alone. And
yeah, and it's mad because when you're going through it, you're like, yeah, well, this is just me, because you can get very into your head and very lonely. And I like the bit about not saying hello to your neighbours, because it's true. It feels like we can't even chat to our neighbours. It's like you bump into somebody and instead of going to hug them, you take like 3 steps back. It's craziness. So that's why the conversation, and to be having conversations in these safe ways by posting poetry and reading poetry and talking to other people, it's a way of still remaining connected in a time where we could so easily be disconnected from one another.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. Like, to stay connected is so important. And actually, me and Soph were talking before the show about sort of everyone seems to be talking about everyone, and there's sort of this not chatting to your neighbours or like having suspicions about your friends, and there's just a lot of chatting going on about at the moment. And obviously in the isolation period and with something like a virus like this going around, like it is expected, but it is really, really difficult because it's just there's a lot of chat going on about a lot of people, and because you can't meet up with people, it's like you can't really like explain or like talk to people and talk it out kind of thing. It's weird. Like
it's really strange. But if you want to catch any more of Andy N's work, go on his blog One Writer and hisplc.blogspot.com. You can also check out Spoken Label on Spotify and YouTube. This is his podcast series, which I was so lucky to feature on a few months back. So definitely check out his stuff because it really is great. So up next, we have got some uplifting music for you because I know this is